Okay, so here we have topics that is related to economy, and it is Air India sale. We know that the government has announced its decision to sell its entire stake in Air India, and it has its two other businesses, Air India Express Limited and Air India SAT, that is Air India's Export Services Private Limited. So here, background is that Air India that was started by the Tata Group in 1932 and till it independence of India. Now India government has bought a 49% stake in Air India. And what it has done then, government bought the remaining stake and Air India was nationalized in 1953. So now why this airline is being sold? Because the national carrier that dominates India's skies for 5 decades, so almost 50 years. Now, the dominance that came under the serious threat due to economic liberalization and growing presence of the private sector players also. So, the Air India, which flew international flights that were merged in 2007 with a domestic carrier, and Indian Airlines that to reduce losses. Now, the government has spent over rupees 1.1 lakh crore to either directly make up of the losses or to raise loans since 2019 9 and 10. Now, the Air India that was in debt, that was of rupees 61,562 crore rupees. Now, what factor that caused difficulties in the sale? Because it was the first attempt to reduce the government stake disinvestment that was made in 2001. That attempt to sell a 40% stake that has failed as a viability of running Air India worsened and every passing year. Now, the government in 2018 also made another attempt to sell the government stake, that is 76%, but it did not elicit even a single response. How the sale was done? Because the government had not retained a partial stake, and finally it has made put 100% of stake that is on sale. Now, this made private firms to have operational freedom, which needed to turn around such a heavy loss making airline. Now, significance can be seen under this, that is a underscores PM's commitment to reduce the government's role in the economy, and it also aims to serve taxpayers from paying off daily losses of Air India. Now, the historical difficulties in Air India's disinvestment were overcome by the recent sale. Now we have Indian Space Association, that is ISPA, Indian Space Association. Now it is a private sector companies that is both at the global and domestic that have taken interest in India's space domain. It is basically mainly due to a launch of the space-based communication networks. Background is the Indian Space Association that was formally launched by the Prime Minister. It is an industry body that is representing the various stakeholders in the Indian space domain, and its member that comprising the Indian Space Research Organization, that is Bharti Airtel and OneWeb, Tata Group, Nelco, L&T, MapMy India. Significance that can be seen under this, that India has made a progress in the space sector over the years. Now the ISRO that has primarily been at the center of this progress. Now the private sector entities that have taken interest in India's space domain, it provides immense opportunities among all sectors. How there are the space-based communication network growing, like several Indian and international companies that have bet on satellite communication. It's the national frontier to provide internet connectivity at the retail level. Now, OneWeb is building its initial constellation of 648 low Earth orbit satellites and has already put 322 satellites into orbit. Now, the service are expected to begin this year in the Arctic region, including Alaska, Canada, and UK. In the addition, that is Starlink and Amazon's that are also in discussion with the Indian government for a license to offer satellite-based internet service. Now, SpaceX that has a plan to create a network of 12,000 satellites, of which over 1,300 are under Skyborne. Why it is satellite internet important? Because the satellite internet it is essential for the broadband inclusion in remote areas, also sparsely populated location, that is where terrestrial networks that have not reached, satellite communications that remains limited to use by the corporates and institutions, that is which use them for emergency use. Now India had only 3 lakh satellites communication customers when compared with 45 lakh in the US and 21 lakh in European Union. So we don't have such. Now, if we talk about the core sectors we know that is several core sectors we have. That core sector output had risen to 11.6% and increasingly increase in the production of steel and cement. And several macroeconomic indicators had returned to green. Now, background is that 8 core sectors such as refinery products, steel, coal, crude, natural gas, cement, and fertilizer that comprises of 40.27% of the index of industrial production. Now, the data that reveals that the core sector output that is rose by 11.6% in 2021 over 2020. Now, the coal and the natural gas production that is increased by 20.6%, refinery products that is by 9.1%, steel by 5.1%, cement by 36.2%, and electricity generation by 15.3%. While fertilizers and the crude oil that fell by 3.1% and 2.3% respectively. Now, index of industrial production, that is IIP, is the key economic indicators for the manufacturing sectors, and also it measures the changes in the volume of industrial production. Now, the index that primarily comprises of manufacturing, mining, and electricity sectors that with the weightage of 11.63% and 14.37% and 7.99% respectively. Now, the current base year is financial year 2012, and its number that has showed up the IIP, that is industrial index of industrial production, and it is increased by 11.5% on the year. Now, the overall growth, that is momentum, the core sector output have increased for the second successive month. Now, if we talk about the relevance of the core sector output, now the rising core sector output that reflects greater production and economic activity. Now we have the higher core sector output and the IIP, that is index of industrial production, that have a multiplier effect on economic growth. It lifts other end use and allied sectors such as automobiles, real estate, and construction. Now the sectors that is steel, cement, electricity, fertilizers, that are strong lead indicators of economic revival. Now we have the higher production leads to increase incomes in the hand of people. Now the higher demand that boosts output and the economic activity, and thus it sets a virtuous cycle in motion. Significance of this thing is that the core sector is basically the real anchor that supports the rest of the sectors, and with the strong forward and backward linkage, its improved output that has also indicate growth in the infrastructure and housing and agriculture. Now the trends in the core sector that provides a definite signal about the state of the economy. Now we have another topic, that is let's talk about the sailed automobile industry. That is the auto sector that was in a slump even before COVID. Now the COVID-19 that has slammed the breakers and demand has not been able to recover well enough to rejuvenate animal spirits among investors in the industry. Background, if we know that the Ford Motor that exists from the India that had joined the ranks of General Motor, Harley Davidson, Volkswagen groups, Mantrons, and it has a cast a spotlight on our Belgorod in auto industry. Now the industry that faces a decline in demand for vehicles and often lags in inventory levels. Now the auto production that facilitates in countries that have been running below their capacity. Here reason for a stall, that is the COVID-19 pandemic and its associated lockdowns that have only worsened the industry. Now most players that are reluctant to make fresh investments. Now the consumption demand accounts for over half our gross domestic product and have not been firing on all cylinders. Now the per capita private final consumption expenditure in 2020-2021 that was lower than the levels recorded in 2017 to 18. Now the urban customers that had postponed their purchases as new mobility solutions emerge and disrupt the global auto industry. Now the value of the car ownership is being called into question with ride hailing options provided by the apps like Uber and Ola. Now, electric mobility that is also in ascendant as India has set a target of new vehicles that to be electric by 2023. Let's need to check out the meaning of this word. Wait a minute. Rising in power. Okay, it is ascendant that I was rising in power. Okay, now way forward, the auto industry that considered to be the engine of growth that needs policy attention, the goods and service tax of 28% on two-wheeler that has to be reduced. Now the lower GST rate that helps to generate demand, and thus it addressed the slump in the automobile sector. Okay, we have another global minimum tax. Here, the global minimum tax that deals encourage multinationals to repatriate country to the country of the headquarters, give a boost of the economy. The overhaul of the international tax system is poised to take a significant step forward. Now we know that the deal ensures big companies to pay minimum 15% of tax. It makes it harder to avoid companies to avoid taxation. Now the deal has been agreed upon by 136 countries. Now the OECD, that is countries such as Kenya, Nigeria, Pakistan and Sri Lanka that had not yet joined the agreement. Now the budget that's strained after the COVID-19 crisis, the government wants to discourage multinationals from shifting profits from and tax revenues to the low tax countries irrespective of the sales. Now the income from drug patents, softwares and royalties on intellectual property that has increased, and it thus allows companies to avoid paying higher taxes. Now the tax competition that is between the government to attract foreign investment that is made to go for a tax deal. Now the OECD that estimate the minimum tax that will generate 150 billion US dollar in additional global tax revenues that is annually, and it is a taxing right on more than 125 billion US dollar of profit that will be additionally included. Now it gives a major flip to boost the world economy. Now I think we need to go for the prelims dose, that how many questions do we able to prelims. Okay, let's check out now the Malabar exercise series of exercise that has begun as an annual bilateral naval exercise between India and the US in 1992. So in 1992, Malabar exercise has been begun between India and US. Now it is a 25th edition of Malabar exercise that has been conducted in two phases and observing all protocols that is needed to be considered during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now the Indian Navy that would be participating in the second phase of multilateral maritime exercise in Malabar. Now it is also along with the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, that is Royal Australian Navy and United States Navy. So Japan and Australia, that's basically Quad group, is also joining us. And the exercise is being conducted in the Bay of Bengal region from 12 to 15 October. Now the exercise that would build upon the synergy coordination and interoperability operations. It also would focus on advanced surface and anti-submarine warfare exercise, seamanship evaluation and weapon firing. Now we have just a minute, we have another topic, that is GI tag clove. Now the spices that is growers of Kanyakumari, that is Tamil Nadu, that have obtained a geographical indication from the clove that is being grown in a hilly region of this district. Now that is known as the rich aromatic oil content. Now the clove is the one of the prominent spice crops of the district, and it is grown on 760 hectares in densely wooded areas, and the district that represents about 73% of the area that under clove in the Tamil Nadu. Now the ethanol content in oil, it's higher, and it's lending a better aroma and flavor to the clove bud. Now, the flower buds, stalks, and fallen leaves are used in essential oil preparation. So, the clove bud and its oil are also used in medical, pharmaceuticals, and perfumery industry. So, we have another topic, that is Lucy and Trojan asteroid. Lucy, we already had a movie, Lucy, where power of the mind has shown. So we have science and technology, that is NASA is set to launch Lucy and its first mission to explore the Jupiter Trojan. So Lucy related to Jupiter. Trojan asteroids. Now the mission is named after Lucy, is 3.2 million years old, is centers, that is who belong to species of hominian, which includes human and their ancestors. So Lucy is why it is named after. It is 3.2 million years old ancestor. Okay, 3.2 million years old ancestor who belong to a species of hominian, which includes humans and their ancestor. Now the solar powered mission is estimated to be over 12 years long. Now the spacecraft that will visit 8 asteroids covering a distance of about 6.3 billion kilometers to deepen the understanding of the young solar system. Now the asteroid that is named Donald Johnson, after the paleontologist who discovered the fossilized remains of Lucy. Now, the asteroids that are believed to be remnant of the early solar system. Now, the study of asteroids that helps scientists to understand their origin and evolution. Now we have goals. What are all the goals in this thing? That is goal that is going online as leaders, is a program by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs and Facebook India. Okay, Facebook India and Ministry of Tribal Affairs, they basically have a goal that is going online as leaders. It is aimed to provide a skill for the tribal youth and it with a focus on enabling digital presence. It also ensures that strengthening of the core skills to drive professional economical upliftment. Also, the program that intend to upskill and empower 5,000 tribal youths over the next 5 years to harness the full potential of digital platforms. It is also designed to provide mentorship to tribal youth through digital mode and envisaged to act as a catalyst to explore the hidden talent of the tribal youth. Okay, 5,000 tribal youth. Okay, now we have Sidhu Durg, that is the Ministry of Civil Aviation, had virtually inaugurated the Greenfield Sidhu Durg Airport in Maharashtra. Now the ministry that has also flagged off the first flight from Sidhudurg to Mumbai under RCS Udan, that is Regional Connectivity Scheme Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagarik Scheme, the inauguration that has marked the commencement of the 61st airport under the Udan scheme and successful operationalized of 381 routes under Udan. Now the airline, Messrs Airlines, that was awarded the Sidhudurg Mumbai route under Udan 3.1. This is the 75th Udan route that is operationalized by the airline. Now, the financial incentives in the form of viability gap funding that are being provided from the center and state government and airport operator to select airlines to encourage operations that are from unserved to unreserved airports under the scheme. Okay, that is done.